We all know that the weakness of Nurgles is missile spam, and in this second battle between Butcherbird and Will Francesco's best of 5, we'll be seeing some extreme greenskin firepower. Butcherbird playing as the greenskin on the left here, with a front line of Nobblers supported by a whole lot of Orc Air Boys and a single Rusty Air. But the extreme firepower isn't about these infantry, but the big gun. A regiment of renowned rogue idol that can also chuck rocks into enemy formations. On top of that, it has the replenishing ammo ability called Rock Bottom. It sacrifices HP in exchange for ammo to shoot, so as long as it still has health, it will continue to chuck rocks. Behind them, a bunch of squigs for a cheap mass blocker. On the flanks, there are some Orc Boys to provide a little bit stronger fighting power or perhaps some flanking maneuvers. For the other single entities, the leadership, we have Grimgor Ironhide bringing quite a few tools. Your Nyx as well as Gisnyx, two very powerful melee abilities, and then the best of the best, providing melee stat buffs as well as damage resistance. As for the spellcasting department, definitely a popular pick here, River Troll Hag. Bring in Spirit Leech as well as the Fate of Buna for some direct damaging spells to ignore any resistance or armor on the Nurgle's end. Now for Will Francesco's Nurgle army, he's definitely going for a fast and wide infantry rush. We have a whole bunch of Forsaken, very cost-effective offensive Nurgle infantry. Nurglings, they're definitely cheap chaff, but for a chaff, they are actually very sticky and annoying. On the far end, a single Marauder, and at the back, a concentration of monstrous mobility. 3 Plague Toads of Nurgle, one of them the Barons of the Bog, and then 2 more Marauder Horsemen of Nurgle, as well as a couple Chaos Warhounds with poison, and that's it for the majority of the army. For leadership, we have a powerful Exalted Hero of Nurgle, led by a Chaos Sorcerer Lord, bringing in a bunch of healing spells. And that's it for the army builds. Now let's focus on the battle itself, as the big gun is already chucking rocks into the formations of the Nurgle infantry, even doing some noticeable damage to the Plague Toads with the sheer mass of his projectiles. He'll be switching around targets, making it harder for his opponents to dodge, doing maximum damage to the Forsaken. In the front line, the Orc Air Boys will be shooting at the lightly armored Nurglings, a very good target indeed, doing some minor damage before they start engaging the Greenskin infantry. On the right flank, the Marauders are being charged by both the Squigs and the Orc Boys, and with their great offensive stats, the Nurgle infantry will be receiving a good old crumpin from their Greenskin opponents. In the middle of the front line, the engagement is fairly even, but the left side is definitely in favor of Nurgles. A lot of Plague Toads are rushing in, overrunning a bunch of Goblins' position here. The Orc Air Boys and Rusty Airs are trying their best to whittle down the lightly armored Plague Toads as well as the Nurglings, doing great damage to the Nurglings, but the Forsaken are making some progress here. At the back here, the Marauders of Nurgle will be chugging in, throwing axes, trying to whittle away the health of Squig herds, but I assume they are on skirmishing mode here, not exactly the greatest retreating route, getting caught up by a few Squig herds, and also being Nurgle units, they do indeed have less speed than other horsemen, so they will be caught up by some of these Squig herds, although some Chaos Warhounds are here to intercept. Now back to the front line, a lot of that Goblin defenses has been destroyed, and that means the Nurgle infantry can surge forward and threaten the Rusty Airs as well as the Orc Air Boys. But the big gun is here to intercept, chucking in one last rock before going into an atomic body slam, smashing quite a few of these Forsaken. Their armor means nothing when a rock the size of a fortress is dropping onto them. While over here, Barons of the Bog as well as the 2 Plague Toads will be overloading the remaining Orc Boys and securing the left flank for the Nurgle army. But the right flank on the Nurgle side is getting collapsed quite heavily by a whole lot of Greenskin infantry here. Goblins, Orc Boys, and then some other Squig herds overrunning this position of all these Nurglings and will be crushing them in combat. While the Forsaken, who has been focusing on running down the Orc Air Boys, they are indeed taking massive damage from both the crossfire of Orc Air Boys and some Orc Boys melee attack. In the middle where the characters were duking it out, the fight has been quite favorable for the Nurgle army actually routing off the giant River Troll Hag. But the main problem here is that Grimgor Ironhide, the biggest, the baddest, the greenest, meanest big boss, he doesn't care if he's in a 1v2 situation, he just chaffs through it and doing some massive damage to the Chaos characters. The Exalted Hero was forced to retreat, leaving his Liege Lord alone against Grimgor and a lot of goblins. This is not enjoyable at all for the Chaos Sorcerer Lord of Nurgle, and he will be taking substantial damage, especially with the Giant River Trollhag rushing in to help out. At the back here, we can see that a whole bunch of greenskin air boys are being run down by Nurglings and Chaos Warhounds, while the rest of the Plague Toads are cleaning up the Orc boys, and perhaps the Squig herds are also getting dealt with by a combination of Nurglings and Marauder Horsemen. The Barons of the Bog here trying their best to save their Liege Lord, but the Chaos Sorcerer will still be terrified away by the Giant River Trollhag, and the Barons of the Bog is instead bogged down by a whole lot of greenskin infantry here. Orc boys, goblins, and then there's Grimgor here surrounded by his own gits, having a hell of a time hacking apart all these poor Nurgle units. And then out of nowhere, the big gun chucked a rock into the Exalted Hero's face. Not exactly the greatest shot right there, probably do more friendly damage if anything, but still, damage is damage, and Goblin's life is no value at all to the greenskins. Anyways, there are some horsemen here being caught up in melee combat. Yes, sure, they are Nurgle horsemen. They are indeed a little bit tankier than regular horsemen due to being Nurgle and whatnot, but they will still take massive damage even with the help of Nurglings, especially when all the Nurgle units here are very tattered. There are some Warhounds roaming around trying their best to run down the routed units. Will Francesco is trying his best to rout off the periphery units of the greenskins and consolidate in the middle with the infantry, but the problem is that they don't have any answers to the greenskin single entities. The Big Gun and Grimgor Ironhide, two tough and hard as nails greenskin entity. The Nurgle infantry are simply not doing anything against their heavy armor. And with only Plague Toads really doing that armor-piercing damage, Nurgle might not have enough steam to pull through this time, especially now that the Exalted Hero of Nurgle is so low in health and the Chaos Sorcerer Lord is almost dead, unable to provide much magic support for any longer. In the middle here, the Plague Toads pin down most of the greenskins' killing power with their stickiness. Forsakens trying to overwhelm the backline of the greenskin army here and are doing some quite decent damage to the light armored air boys and the goblins here. But the problem is that there's just nothing to deal with the greenskin single entities. On the far side, Exalted Hero of Nurgle caught up with the River Trollhag, doing some quite nice damage here, but then again, River Trollhag does do piercing damage while the Exalted Hero of Nurgle is extremely low in health, only 652 HP left. Yes, the Chaos Sorcerer Lord might be regrouping now, but that really depends whether he can heal up the Exalted Hero in time, and looking at the leadership, that's probably not the case here. Now over here, the Big Gun is trying to finish off the remaining melee units of the greenskins, having no ammo right now, resorting to hand-to-hand combat, so the Marauder Horsemen of Nurgle can be throwing their axes into the face of the Big Gun. But then he still has this ability Rock Bottom, which sounds like he pulls the rocks out of his bottom. Anyways, it doesn't matter where the rock comes from, the only thing that matters is where it will go. Though it seems that Butcherbird isn't in a rush of activating the ability and instead ordering the Big Gun to chase down the routed units. On the far side, the Plague Toads are still running around trying to crush as many greenskin units as they can, as they are just trying to avoid combat against the Big Gun. Now the Big Gun is approaching the Marauder horses, and for a split second, the Rock Bottom ability is activated, replenishing his ammo. He might have taken some damage there, but he now has a counter-attack available against the Marauder horses at point-blank range, smashing apart quite a few Marauder horsemen models. Given the low health, low leadership, and low ammo of all these Marauder horses, this is definitely a massive blow to the unit. Now the long-range firepower is what makes the Big Gun unique and amazing. He might not have the speed, but that doesn't mean he can't be kited. He does have that missile damage here, so the Nurglings will have to tie him down to stop his shooting, while the Marauder Horsemen of Nurgle will continue their armor-piercing throwing axes. But then they have stuck too close to the Big Gun, the massive greenskin construct, and they will be terrified away. Nurgle losing another source of firepower. Spirit Leech is draining the remaining health of the Marauder Horsemen here, Mither slowing down their speed, allowing the Giant River Trollhag to catch up with them, while this one remaining Marauder Horseman is also receiving a rock chugging air. The Big Gun routing it with the help of Grimgor. Only Nurglings are remaining in combat right now, and the Plague Toads are rushing back, trying to support this melee fight. Unfortunately though, there's really not much the Nurgle army can do here. The big gun will chuck out a huge rock, crushing a bunch of horsemen, pushing the Nurgle army into army losses. And with that, Butcherbird will be securing a second victory in the series. GG to both Butcherbird and Will Francesco for the second game of the series. Now for a quick rundown of army performances, Goblins really didn't do that much here other than chasing off some routed units perhaps, and then the Orc boys getting crushed quite handily by an overwhelming force of Forsaken. The Air boys did okay actually, one of them at least. The other three not so much, being overwhelmed from the front line with all the Nurglings and whatnot. The Squig herds tried their best to hold back the enemy mobility and infantry, but the thing is that they just don't have enough numbers here with so much investment diverted into the missiles. But the thing is, the single entities carried this game. Grimgor Ironhide managed to 1v2 two characters and still managed to come out on top. The River Troll hack has enough speed to chase down the Chaos Sorcerer Lord on foot, and then also the Spirit Leech are quite effective and did some great single entity damage there, chasing down the Routed Lord and then breaking off the Exalted Hero of Nurgle. The big gun here did some great damage, not quite enough to earn back its cost, but the problem for Nurgle is that they just suck against heavily armored giant single entities. And well, the big gun is exactly that, especially they can chuck rocks and smash apart their infantry formations. The Forsaken here did some decent damage, got a lot of kills, but just not enough to carry the game here as the characters got mostly destroyed in melee combat. Marauder Horsemen did some nice damage and the Hounds chased off a lot of routing greenskin units, but in the end there's just no options here to finish off the armored single entities. The Barons of the Bog is probably their best chance, but still only 572 gold and not a lot of damage value really. Had a lot of kills though, so there's that I suppose. Plague Toads of Nurgle, they just have piss poor attack stats, so not great damage value as well. With Butcherbird winning the second game, Will Francesco desperately needs a victory in the third one so that the series can continue. He'll be bringing the powerful army of Slaanesh and their infamous mobility, using the Heartseekers to trade blow to blow against the Bretonnian cavalry, while at the same time Marauders will be mopping up the Bretonnian peasants. But the true unsung Slaanesh heroes aren't the light cavalry but the heavy ones. Chaos Knights of Slaanesh forming a circle, fighting back to back, surrounded on all fronts, holding back a tide of knights errant and questing knights. Using their great defensive stats, heavy armor and physical resistance, they managed to cause a lot of combat attrition to all these Bretonnian mobility, and more importantly preventing them from reinforcing other engagements, and with that Slaanesh was able to dominate the battlefield. Now the Peasant Yeoman Archers alone cannot carry this battle, especially not against a full health Sigvald. They can try to skirmish and wear down the Slaanesh infantry however they want, but Prince Sigvald alone can finish them all off. Both armies are now trying to set conditions for the final engagement, especially with Butcherbird trying to expend as much ammo as he can from his mounted yeoman archers. The Bretonnians attempted one last charge, but the combat attrition triggered army losses for them. With that, Will Francesco was able to claw back one victory with the Slaanesh army, pushing the series into a fourth game which I'll be showcasing in the next video. If you want to see more Total War Warhammer competitive multiplayer, be sure to hit the subscribe button to the channel and keep an eye out for new uploads. That's it for today's tournament spotlight, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich signing out.